We're talking with Laura Oolup, who is the head of cyber policy at the NATO EU department at the Estonian Ministry of Defense. Laura, thank you for taking time to speak with us. We were expecting a wave of cyber attacks against the West and certainly the Baltics and Ukraine after the war in Ukraine started. Did that ever materialize?
Yes, it certainly has. First of all, I would also like to emphasize that certainly there has been a lot of cyber activity against Ukraine as well in Russia's aggression against Ukraine as part of its military campaign. But of course, we have to acknowledge that in regards to cyber, we always don't see the effects instantly when cyber attacks have occurred. In regards of the attacks against, the allies, there has been a lot of different cyber attacks taking place. If we're talking about different tactics or types of attacks, then I would say that DDoS attacks have been prevailing. Certainly in Estonia, we have seen a lot of distributed denial of service attacks, especially in kind of waves. So if there has been, for instance, some kind of more significant political decision or some kind of other development, then there has been or have occurred more DDoS attacks as well.
Do you get the sense that these attacks, whether they're nuisance or more intense attacks, do you get the sense that they achieved the objectives that the Russians wanted them to have against the targets?
If we're talking about targeting the allies through cyber domain, then it's difficult to see in their heads of Russians conducting the attacks and what's exactly their objective. But in regards to their potential intent to kind of break the Western unity in regards of their support towards Ukraine, then I would say they haven't been successful in that regard. Even if we're talking about the DDoS campaigns conducted against Estonia, then thanks to the developed cyber resilience we have today in our society, we haven't noticed the impact of those attacks. And we are also trying to be aware of the intent of kind of influencing the decision making in regards to, for instance, supporting Ukraine. Then we are not trying to kind of support achieving the intent of the attackers in regards of talking too much about those DDoS attacks, because again, we see those also as part of information operations to a certain extent. But yeah, I would say that considering even not the everyday user has perhaps even seen or noted the cyber attacks conducted, for instance, against Estonia, then I would say that no, they haven't been successful in that regard.
We haven't seen anything like what Russia did in 2007 with Estonia, 2008 in Georgia. We haven't seen anything like that since then, especially now.
To be honest, actually, the DDoS campaign we had last year, at one point, the scope actually exceeded what we experienced in 2007. But again, the difference is that over like 16 years or 15 years by that time, we have just matured so much in regards to our cybersecurity, our cyber defense. We have been aware of the threats. So therefore, we have been keeping investing in our cyber defense capabilities as well and taken additional measures because we are aware of the cyber threat that we're encountering today in cyberspace. So therefore, we have actually seen a lot more than we have experienced previously. But again, we have been prepared for that. And the same thing actually applies to Ukraine as well. Why many are saying that why we're not seeing these kind of cyber Pearl Harbor, which is often referenced. Again, this is about expectation management to a certain extent as well. But of course, what Ukraine has also said that they have been prepared and they have many years of experience of facing different cyber attacks conducted also by Russia. So yeah, there's a lot happening.
Do you think Russia's capabilities have advanced, or are they still trying to launch 2007 type of attacks in 2023?
No, I would definitely not make that kind of conclusion. As I said initially as well, a lot is happening in cyber domain. We are just not seeing all the effects today. And also we are seeing developments in regards of their tactics as well. I think in regards of the wiper malwares that we're seeing that have been used against Ukraine, this is definitely a development that we didn't see in 2007 or 2008. So in regards of, to a certain extent, lessons identified, then we have to be aware, first of all, the threat. Again, if we're not seeing instantly the effects of different cyber operations, then it doesn't necessarily mean there aren't any. So we need to remain vigilant in monitoring what's happening in cyberspace. We have to be vigilant in regards of how potentially pro-Russian hackers also might use cyber means against the alliance to influence their decision-making and perhaps trying to influence their decision-making in regards of supporting Ukraine. Therefore, we have to be resilient. We have to invest in our cybersecurity and cyber defense improvements. Again, Ukraine has presented us a very good case in that regard, how important is preparing for this kind of scenarios. And I think what Ukraine has also presented us is the importance of cooperating, first of all, with allies, with partners. We are also cooperating with Ukraine and sharing best practices mutually, and also cooperating with the industry. We know that there have been cases where, thanks to the cooperation with private companies, private security companies, Ukraine has also been successful in neutralizing cyber attacks. So I would pinpoint those aspects, but of course there are many more.
What are your key objectives for your organization, for your agency in the coming weeks, months, and years?
Well, first and foremost, of course, supporting Ukraine in every possible way, because this is literally the key situation in today's events, and this also applies to cooperating in the matters of cybersecurity. And as I said previously, we need to keep investing in our cyber defense and resilience.
What do you think are the key threats to Estonia now when it comes to cyber?
Well, we can definitely expect the DDoS campaigns continuing, but we are also aware of the greater kind of threats that have been mentioned by other allies and partners as well, in regard to potentially threatening critical infrastructure. So we need to be aware of that, considering we're also seeing, especially in regards to Ukraine as well, attempts to conduct espionage through cyber means. So I would point out these areas.
Laura, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.